Why have nearly 60,000 Jews made Aliyah since Israel has been at war? We speak with Rabbi Jay Weinstein of the Jewish Agency for Israel. This is Aliyah News. The Jewish Agency serves as a central hub for global Aliyah, processing immigration applications, supporting Jewish communities worldwide, and strengthening Israeli society. Rachel Smith from our Israel office sat down with Rabbi Jay Weinstein, Director of Christian Friends at the Jewish Agency for Israel, to discuss his personal Aliyah journey, the rise of anti-Semitism, how support for Israelis has shifted since October 7th, 2023, and his hopes for the future.
Boker Tov, Jay. Welcome to our Jerusalem office of Ebenezer. It's a real privilege to have you here. So if you could just introduce yourself.
Sure.
Lovely.
First, thank you so much. The pleasure and privilege is mine. So my name is Jay, and I made Aliyah. I moved to Israel 10 years ago with my wife and 4 children from the United States, from New Jersey. Since making Aliyah, I've been blessed with 2 more children, so now 6 altogether. And, Aliyah is something that we grew up with. I grew up in a very Zionist home, Zionist schools, Zionist camps. We always took trips to Israel. So knowing that one day we would want to end up living here was something that was always in the back of our mind. But at some point, after you preach to a congregation over and over again about the importance of Israel, about the importance of being part of the Jewish destiny, that little voice inside your head says, okay, well, when's your turn? When's your turn? And about 10 years ago, we were blessed with the opportunity to move our family here.
Looking now at your community, I remember talking before about your synagogue and understanding and discussing together the opportunity of Aliyah. And I remember you talking about as well the success of that, not only for your family, but also for your community as well. Could you just talk a little bit about that as well?
Sure. It's a pride and joy of our community that Israel was always at the center. There's always celebrations of Israel. There was always support of Israel. And we've been blessed to be one of many, many families, I would say over the last 10, 15 years who've moved to Israel. So at this point, we actually have a group of almost, 50, 60 people that are here, or people's children who are here. And, where does that come from? That comes from, early education. When something's important to a community and something's important to a synagogue, it sinks in. It sinks into the younger generation.
If you could just talk a little bit about your position within the Jewish Agency, that would be lovely.
Sure. So I'm the Director of Christian Friends for the Jewish Agency, which means I'm blessed and privileged to build bridges between Christian communities around the world and Israel and our work in the Jewish Agency. And for us, inviting Christians to partake in what we see as biblical prophecies come alive. Our prophets tell us that Jews will return from the 4 corners of the earth back to the land of Israel. And the fact that Christians want to be part of that and want to support it, both with their hands and their feet, and financially, and emotionally, and with their prayers, to me that's what God wants. When God looks at us and says, all of my children are coming together and working together to bring biblical prophecies come alive, it's a blessing to be able to be involved with that day in and day out.
Yes. Looking now as well, you mentioned that you worked for the Jewish Agency. If you could tell us a little bit about what the Jewish Agency is for our viewers, that'd be super helpful.
Sure. So the Jewish Agency is a historic organization. We predate the State of Israel. In fact, the Jewish Agency was the organization that gave birth to the State of Israel. So in the early years, the Jewish Agency was tasked with bringing the country to fruition, to building the country. And then our historic role has always been Aliyah. Israel was founded with a premise that any Jew around the world who wants to come and immigrate and live in Israel, it's our responsibility to bring them home. Times are challenging in which we live, and the Jewish people around the world are facing very high levels of anti-Semitism. And anytime there are major events in the world, somehow it always comes to impact the Jewish community. So I'll give you a few examples. We now see over the last 2 years a very, very high increase in the amount of Aliyah from France, because the amount of anti-Semitism that the Jewish community is facing in France is very, very, very high. And therefore we have to be ready. So that means we have to have more people on the ground to help them open up their Aliyah files, more people to help process the Aliyah, more people to help bring them over, more flights and more people here. And of course, bringing them to Israel is only part A. And part B is, how do we make them successful in Israel? How can we make sure they can transition job-wise? How can we make sure that they're having Hebrew, Ulpan, and learning the language? So in terms of global events, certainly since October 7th and the rise of anti-Semitism, we see Aliyah grow in many of these countries. And I would like to point out that since the beginning of the war, over 50,000 people from around the world have made Aliyah. Since October 7th, that they're choosing to come to a land, even though there's a war that's going on and everyone knows the dangers that take place with a war.
As far as you can see, why do you think that is? Because people are always shocked overseas. They say usually if there's a war, you run away as fast as you can. In Israel, you run towards it.
Yeah. I think deep down, each of us are looking for a meaning and purpose. And when you live in a country that's been connected to your people for 3,000 years, and you understand that it's part of a national destiny of the Jewish people, but not only. Right? The Jewish people are part of the global world, and we believe, especially with our relationship with Christians, that God is looking for us to build bridges and to come together and to be part of this historic land. So when people are in Israel with all the challenges, they know they're in the right place. We often hear, okay, I arrived, I finally feel at home. What does that mean? That means that they feel that they have their purpose of being here in this land.
Do you think modern day Israel and what we are seeing today, the Aliyah of the Jewish people, is part of these prophecies coming true?
How could you not? Listen, everyone has the choice to look at the world with different types of glasses. I try to look at the world through a biblical lens, through God's lens. And once you do that, you can't read the prophecies and look around and not see the two are connected with each other. And the fact that indeed we were saved in a war since October 7th, to see the hand of God helping Israel fight on all these different fronts. Of course, we're blessed with a wonderful army and intelligence and resources, but you can't look around and say, wow, how did we manage not only to get through this, but to get through this stronger, unless you look at the lenses through God's eyes. We're living right now in the last few weeks in a historic time, because we've just gotten the approval and green light to do the Aliyah of Bnei Menashe. This is the lost tribe of Menashe in the small villages in remote India, who for 2,000 years have migrated to different countries, but now have been in India and have held on to Jewish traditions. They've been somewhat secluded and separated from mainstream community, and we just gotten the green light to bring Aliyah 5,000 of Bnei Menashe, the lost tribe. Starting this year in 2026, our plan is to bring 1,200. It's happening in 2 different waves, and then over the next 5 years to get up to 5,000. So these are people that have been holding on to this promise for 2,000 years, and we're blessed to see it come to fruition. That's incredible. That's really feeling and seeing the return of the lost tribes to Israel.
It's been inspiring for me today, and Ebenezer International stands with the Jewish people, with Israel, and is here and wants to hear how they can help and support, and will continue to do so.
Ebenezer, I have met a few months ago and really seen the work, but the love that they have. And Ebenezer's helping us in countries around the world, on the ground, bringing OLIM to the airport, making sure they have whatever resources they need to get here. And on the other side in Israel, too. And you're our family, and family's there for each other. Toda rabba.
Toda rabba.
Toda.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
It is a remarkable fact that thousands of Jewish families and individuals have chosen to move their lives to Israel since October 7th, 2023. When human instinct would cause many to run away from war, a compelling sense of identity, history, and love has drawn these individuals towards Israel. This calling is truly divine. God Himself has promised to watch over His people, bringing them back to the land of their inheritance for the fulfillment of His purposes and renown in all the earth. I myself will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I've driven them and will bring them back to their pasture, where they will be fruitful and increase in number. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Ebenezer Operation Exodus YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. See you next time.